All right, working on the B9 Allroad. This is 2017. It's got about 132,000 kilometers on it, and going to service the fluid in the Quattro with Ultra clutch pack. Essentially I guess some of it's it's not really a viscous coupling. It is actually a clutch pack, hydraulic clutch pack, and as well as the rear differential. Audi does state that neither fluid need to be changed. They're both lifetime fluids, but we're gonna give this a go here and see what this fluid looks like after 132,000 kilometers. So we get it up on the lift. So now that we have the car in the air, we can take a look at the all-wheel drive clutch pack first. Keep in mind, this is a Canadian market car. Has been oil sprayed, but it's still driven heavily in the winter, so don't mind the rust and corrosion. And yeah, any oil seepage it looks like under here, the car is heavily oil sprayed each winter, so keep that in mind. So this is a look at the all-wheel drive clutch pack. Effectively, this is the Quattro with Ultra unit, so this disengages the prop shaft of the rear differential when the car is operating in a front-wheel drive only mode for fuel economy. I believe this does also give the advantage of some level of torque vectoring between the front and rear wheels, but ultimately the goal, I think, with this system was ultimately really just fuel economy versus the torsion style mechanical differential. And then moving down the car to the rear differential. I've got both of these, the drain and fill plugs here, soaking a bit of a PB blaster. They were a little bit corroded, but there is the drain plug on the bottom. And if you can see here, that right there is the fill plug. So before we get started, these are the two fluids that are needed for this service. So the G055, this is the all-wheel drive clutch pack fluid. And the G060 is the gear oil for the rear differential. These are the two new drain plugs and copper crush washers for the Quattro with Ultra all-wheel drive clutch. These are pretty inexpensive. These are about $8 a piece Canadian. There is a part number for a set of plugs for the rear diff. They were not in stock in Canada, and they are outrageously expensive. I want to say they're like $50 or $60 just for the two drain plug. So I opted not to go with those. I'll reuse the original ones if they're in good condition. And the fluids, the G055, I believe it's about $120 Canadian for that one 850 milliliter jug. And the G060 is about $143. So not cheap. I was not able to find any aftermarket Liqui-Moly or any other oil brand that would make an aftermarket equivalent to these. But if someone wants to leave a comment on any aftermarket equivalents for this service, I'm sure that'd be helpful. So I'm going to try and maybe do this one-handed, or maybe I'll put the phone down here. But as you can see, I've removed the fill plug first. It's a pretty common sense move anytime you're working on any kind of differential or unit like this. Came out pretty easy in this car, no issues there. And then in my oil catch here, I've got a pig mat and some blue shop towel, just to see if we can get a better look at what this fluid looks like, if there's any material in there. So I'll make sure I capture a shot of that as I start draining fluid. So here we go. Let's see how smooth I can be with this. I've already cracked this loose. Where's the Allen key? These are both a 5mm Allen or hex. Okay. Really doesn't look too bad, actually. Again, this car's got 132,000 kilometers on it, so not sure what that works out to exactly in miles, but not super high mileage, but not seeing too much action in here. taking a closer look at this fluid now. I'm not sure if this will pick up on camera, but there's a little bit of material in there. It looks like a little bit of metallic material, which I guess to be expected. It is a wet clutch. But overall, that's actually a lot better than I was expecting this fluid to look. So now that we have everything drained out of the Ultra clutch pack, it's time for the fill procedure. So the workshop manual states that the drain plug for the proper fill method, you're supposed to screw it all the way in and then back the screw out about 5 turns, which should result in a gap of about 5 millimeters here. And if I slide my little gauge in here, as you can see, but we are pretty much right on 5 millimeters between the head of the bolt and the underside of the clutch case. We're a little bit loose. I'll tighten this up a slight bit. I'm not sure how much this really matters, but it's supposed to affect obviously the total volume of fluid that'll go in here. Next, I'll just be using a simple, cheap fluid transfer pump. These are cheap. You can get a Canadian Tire, Princess Auto, just about anywhere. There is an Audi specific tool you can use for this. There are fancier fluid transfer pumps, but with these things, they're pretty hard to clean, and I don't like cross-contaminating fluid, so I almost use these as kind of a disposable type program. So we'll give this a shot and see how much fluid this takes. So now I've filled the case with fluid. Did not take very much fluid. It's kind of hard to tell, but I would say about maybe even around 500 milliliters of fluid. Couldn't find a spec on the actual Audi recommended quantity, but the intent, again, just like any differential or case like this, you kind of fill until it starts dripping out of the fill hole. My little transfer pump here, I did find the hose was actually too large to fit in the case, the hole in the case, so kind of rigged up a little bit of a spout here with a piece of the plastic tubing it came with for the larger jug. So just if you do buy a pump like this, you may run into the same issue. So now that this is full, I'm going to leave the drain plug unscrewed, the 5 turns. We're going to reinstall the fill plug, and then once this is installed and torqued, I will tighten and screw in and torque the drain hole. These are both, I believe, 15 Newton meters is the torque spec on these 2 bolts. So go ahead and torque these up, and then clean everything up with some brake clean. So there we go. Everything torqued to spec, cleaned up a little bit with some brake clean, and yeah, it's pretty easy actually. Pretty easy service. The good news here is there's no covers or anything to be removed. It's pretty wide open, so obviously much easier with a lift, but even if you're crawling around in your driveway, really not the end of the world, but definitely need the only specialty tool I'd say you'd need would really be a fluid transfer pump. There's no other way. You know, I'm trying to look for even a hose routing to route a hose through the engine bay. There's really no other way to do it without some type of fluid transfer pump. So that's that, and I'll move on to the back, the rear diff. So here we are in the rear diff. I have the fill plug out now. This is on the driver's side. It should be pretty hard to mess up. There's no other real plugs looking ports anywhere else on the case. So these are both 8 millimeter Allens or 8 millimeter hexes. I will note that the fill plug was a little tougher to get out. I think this is 15 Newton meter torque spec as well. Did feel a little bit tighter than that. Appears to have some red, almost like a Teflon tape or sealant on the screw. I can show you that in a minute. But for the draining here with the same program as the all-wheel drive clutch, get some pig mat and some blue shop towel down. See if we can get a glimpse of what this fluid looks like after 132,000 kilometers. All right, so here we go for drain number 2. All right, again, not looking too bad at all. Just grab the light. Yeah, looking better than expected, that's for sure. Reading a little bit on the forums, seems like Audi will only do this service if the car is experiencing some binding under low speed, tight turns in a parking lot. This car's had no symptoms. This is simply just preventative. I think this is a similar all-wheel drive system and rear diff to some of the newer Q5s as well. And to be honest, I think I've seen a video or two of those services being done with the fluid looking much, much worse than this, almost black. So again, there's the drain plug. You can see a bit of that sealant caked on there. Again, I did clean these out with brake cleaner first, and I actually hit these with a bit of PB blasters. They were a little bit corroded on this car. Definitely want to make sure you have these things cleaned out pretty well. You do not want to strip these, especially the drain one, if you get it kind of half out there. So let this drain out for 5 minutes or so, and then we'll move on to the fill procedure. So here are the fill plug and drain plug, both the exact same. The Audi part number includes both of these in one kit. Doesn't say anything else, doesn't say it comes with any sealant or anything, so maybe they come pre-sealed, but as I mentioned, incredibly expensive. I want to say it was over $50 Canadian for the pair of plugs, and again, none available in Canada. So I just clean these up with a bit of brake clean, make sure the sockets are nice and clean, and I'm going to run these again and just kind of keep an eye on it over the next few days of driving, just to make sure there's no seepage. I know it's a bit of a risk, but I feel pretty confident in this that they're not going to leak. So now going to fill the rear diff. I have reinstalled the drain plug. There's no 5mm nonsense with this one. It's just a simple diff fill. So bottom nut 8mm hex, torque to spec, 15 Newton meter. And now we're going to go ahead and proceed to use the fluid transfer pump to fill the rear diff here. I believe the Audi spec is 670 milliliters, so we'll see what this ends up taking. Again, using fluid transfer pump. I'm not sure there's really any other way to get in here and fill this. You definitely need to have one of those pumps to perform the service. So here we go, just a nice slow drip coming out of the fill hole now. It did take, I think, significantly more fluid than the 670 milliliters I did find online. I'll pretty much use the entire liter filling the rear diff here. I did sacrifice a little bit of fluid, just pump some fluid through that transfer pump, just to kind of flush it out a little bit, swapping fluids. Figured that was fine versus going to a new transfer pump, but started to get a little bit scared there. Pretty much made it through a full liter or close to it before fluid did start dripping out. So keep that in mind if you are doing the service, that you may be pumping a little longer and using a little more fluid than you originally thought. So I'm just going to go ahead, reinstall the fill plug now, and torque both of these to spec and get cleaned up here. So there we go, everything torqued back up, cleaned up with brake cleaner, and ready to go. So again, this would, I think this would apply to, this is a B9 2017 A4 Allroad. I believe the same service for the Quattro with Ultra clutch pack and rear diff would apply to any A4 with the Quattro with Ultra. I know they did make some early years with the Taurus and diff, but and this may even apply to some Q5 models as well. Given both fluids look pretty good and there was no negative driving feel before, I doubt I'll feel much of the service. Could just be a total waste of $300, but definitely peace of mind knowing that these fluids have been changed out. So I'll post all the part numbers I've used in the description below. Check those out, and feel free to leave a comment if there's anything I might have missed or Any experiences you've had with this system or the Quattro Ultra system? We'd love to hear from you.